One of the tasks of grief is finding meaning after you have lost your loved one. And for those who have lost their loved one due to a terminal illness, that they watch their loved one fight until their very last day and their very last breath, one of the questions that have come up for some is, was it all in vain? That they were fighting, their loved one was fighting, and in the face of the fight, there's a feeling that they lost because the loved one has passed away. And so we want to take this question today and just explore it. Because the idea of fighting for your loved one and then them passing might leave some feeling like the fight was in vain, or it might leave someone feeling that they've lost. But I want you to re-examine that thought and look at what was born out of the fight. Because sometimes we look at the result of the fight and we don't focus on what was born in that fight. What was created that didn't exist before? What was strengthened? What lessons were garnered? And what was left for the living from the loved one that passed away as a result of their hard fight for life, and their hard fight to no longer be in pain, and their hard fight to overcome the thing that was attacking their body. And so if we re-look at it, and if we take the diamonds that were born from that situation, we can see that no, it wasn't all in vain. And that no, just because our loved one has passed away doesn't mean that they lost. And so one of the ways we can start to look for some diamonds is to say, what could be born out of watching our loved one battle a terminal illness and being alongside of them as they do? Well, one strength, one virtue that's born out of that is courage. Because it took courage for your loved one to fight that illness every day that they were here. It took courage for you and your family members to rally around your loved one and fight away all of the negative thoughts, to fight away all of the fears, and to sit in a difficult situation with your loved one, giving them strength, giving them words of encouragement, giving them a will to fight, and also the courage for you to sit with the uncertainty, to sit with feelings of helplessness, to sit with feelings of pain and fear and loss. All throughout that process, it took courage. Another diamond that was born from going through that process with your loved one is in the fight, in the searching for answers, in the research, in the asking questions, in all of the tests and the trials and all of the different methods that the doctors and healthcare providers employed in order to help your loved one fight that illness, that fight itself and all of the efforts taken during that fight was helping everyone to manage the anxieties that come with living and fighting a terminal illness. And so when you think about it, right, the work, although it took a lot of energy, although the illness itself created the anxieties and the uncertainty of the future created the anxieties, the fight that you were in and all the efforts taken were helping to also manage the anxieties. And now you come out of this situation knowing a little bit better about what it takes to manage extraordinary feelings of anxieties. And even though in the grieving process you're dealing with your own anxiety, this anxiety that you're dealing with now after the loss is very different from the anxieties that you dealt with during the time that you all were fighting with the terminal illness. So anxieties may feel similar, but the cause, the root of them has now shifted to one being related to your loved one fighting an illness and the grief that you feel during that process, because now you're grieving the different types of grief, right? The inability to live life the way you always have, the limitations, the challenges that come with supporting a loved one with terminal illness gives one set of anxieties. And the grieving, the passing of your loved one breeds another set of anxieties. But you take the lessons from the first set of anxieties that you managed and you use it to help you manage this new form of anxiety that you're feeling now in grief. And so that is something that's born out of that experience. Another diamond born out of that experience is that there are lessons that were taught to you, your loved ones, your family, about what true value is, about what's truly a priority, what's truly important, what's irreplaceable, what has no monetary worth, but is the very most important thing to you. And so when we're dealing with a terminal illness, the true value of relationships, the true value of love, of time, the value of a gift, a smile, the value of breath, of health, all come into its truest form. Because now there's no room for pleasantries, there's no room for hypocrisy, there's no room for the fake stuff. It's only what's true, what's lasting, what's really valuable that shows up and stands out. And you understand now in a way that you've never understood before the nature of love, the sacrificial nature of love, the precious nature of love, and how words matter. The words of a loved one comforting you in terminal illness, right? It becomes such of high value. The last words of your loved one spoken to you takes on a significant value because you remember those words. You hold on to those words. Those words now have weight because they were that person's last words. And so if all your life you've taken words for granted and kind of just spoke from the cuff, said what you wanted to say, didn't even consider how your words landed, now that words are the very lifeblood of someone else when they're going through times of difficulty and terminal illness, you understand that words take on a whole different value, especially if they are the final words of someone you love. And so that is something that's born out of that experience, where we start to really define what's valuable and what's not, what's priority and what isn't a priority. And one of the other things that we take away from that is that we learn how going through that experience has helped heal the heart. And at the same time, going through that experience, then the experience of your loved one passing breaks your heart once again, but it breaks it differently. When your heart is healing is from spending the time with your loved one and talking about the things that are important and reliving the positive memories and strengthening and encouraging each other helps to heal your heart, helps to strengthen that relationship. And then when they pass, your heart is broken again, but now it's broken softer because there were these shared experiences, there were these memories, there were these moments, right? There was a fight that you all were in together that allowed the second time that your heart breaks for it to break softer, for it to break with understanding, with meaning and purpose. And so that is another gem that's taken from this experience. We can also look at how this experience helps to focus the anxious mind on one task. When your loved one was with you and fighting their terminal illness, you were focused, they were focused on the one task of finding a way to conquer that illness, to live, finding a way to bring something positive out of that situation. You were focused on one task. Where before this illness came into your life, our mind, your mind was focused on so many different other things. Right? It was focused on things that weren't as important, things that were important, but it had different sources of anxiety. And now it's focused on one task. The one task is to live and to make the most of every day. And so you learned that lesson in fighting through terminal illness. Another gem that's pulled up through terminal illness is the ability to learn how to marshal all your resources. Where in the beginning you might have felt like, well, we're outnumbered. We're outnumbered by this huge problem, crisis called terminal illness. Do we have what it takes to fight this fight? And as you began to fight the fight with your loved one, you started realizing that you had more resources than you ever imagined, because you had strangers, you had doctors, you had healthcare professionals, you had family members, you had co-workers, you had people and resources and community organizations and things that you didn't even know existed because you never needed to call upon them. And now, through this experience, you marshaled all these resources to help do one thing, and that was to help support and fight the fight when it came to this terminal illness. And so now you know how that you can be looking at a situation that looks like a desert, where you can look out for miles and you don't see water anywhere. You don't see anywhere that you can get the resources that you need to survive this desert. But when you went through that experiences and the resources showed up, and you made phone calls and you talked to people and you reached out and the resources you need showed up, now you know that just because you're in a desert of life does not mean that there isn't any water or any resources to help you get through that desert. And so that's one of the gems that can be learned from going through a terminal illness experience. Another gem that you can pick up from going through this experience is how to create new connections. Because there were people that showed up in your life that you would have never been connected to had it not been going to dialysis or going to MRIs and going to support groups and going through grief groups and going through other resources that were made available at the time that you were dealing with your loved one's illness. Had it not been for going through shared experiences with these different types of people and different professionals and different ordinary people, and being up at times when people were asleep because you were in the hospital at 3 o'clock in the morning and you met someone while you were taking a break, right? You built new connections, and these new connections would have never been created, discovered, or grown had it not been for this experience. And so that is something that is a diamond that's brought out of this experience. This experience, too, of supporting your loved one with terminal illness has also helped you to realign your purpose. Where before, maybe your life was focused on how much money you can make. Maybe you were focused on what's your next career, or building businesses, or focused on nothing at all. Maybe you were like kind of going through life feeling like, I'm not sure what am I supposed to do, and I tried this thing, I tried that, and I'm all over the place. And your loved one getting sick was the time that it caused you to mature, to grow, to focus, and it gave you a new sense of purpose. You started thinking about things you never thought before. You started understanding that there were different situations going on in the world that you could lend your talent, your skills, your abilities to. You started saying, you know what, I want to do something more meaningful. I want to work in something that helps solve a problem. I don't want to just make money, or I just don't want to spend time wasted on doing something that doesn't matter to me. And so your loved one going through that process has helped you to find a new sense of purpose, to help you to really align yourself with what you're meant to do with your talents, with your gifts, with your money, with your resources. And this might have been something you would have never considered had you not gone through this experience of supporting your loved one through a terminal illness. And one of the other diamonds that's brought out from this experience is that having fought the fight with your loved one helped to bring comfort to not only them but to you, because you did not sit down and sit back. You were in the fight with them. You were encouraging, you were hoping, you were believing for the best outcome. You were doing all that you could to provide comfort. And your loved one passed away knowing that you were there, passed away knowing that you were supportive, passed away seeing you give time, energy, and resources to help give them comfort, to help them fight. And that was a beautiful gift to them, but it was also a gift back to yourself to spend that time with them, to be there, and to honor your word, and to honor the fact that you wanted to support them, be loyal to them, be rock solid in their life. And you did that. And you helped provide comfort, and you got comfort back. And so, was it all in vain? No. Because there were so many lessons, there were so many gems that came out of that experience of being there for your loved one as they fought a strong fight with terminal illness. And so I just want to encourage you today to explore what good, what gems, what meaning came out of that experience of supporting your loved one with a terminal illness. That is the thing that we want to recover, and we want to recreate our lives incorporating those positive, life-affirming, life-building, purpose-driven things as we look to the future, as we look to how we can rebuild our life after loss. Thank you for joining me. My name is Gessy Martinez, helping you to remember, recover, and recreate your life.